Hello, everyone. How are you doing today?
Good.
Doing well, thank you.
Thank you for joining me for this on this PD training. Before we start, I want us to do an icebreaker activity. So I want you to get your pen and your paper close by. I'm going to share my screen. So our icebreaker activity is going to be on connecting the dots. So let's see if we think alike, or let's see those people that think alike amongst us. Let me share my screen. Okay, so here we go. I want us to look at the dots, find 3 ways of connecting those dots in 3 different ways. It does not have to be closed. If you're ready, you can share your picture.
Try showing his.
Oh, okay. I see yours. Okay,
That's mine.
thank you.
I have 2, 5, and a great big scribble.
That's mine.
Okay, I see yours like a Pac-Man.
Exactly.
Okay, are you ready, Mr. Temi?
Yes, I was showing mine just a second ago. Mine are pretty much all open.
And they're all open. Okay. I guess you guys, you think alike. When I see dots like this, I think of shapes, and this is mine.
Triangle, triangle, triangles. Wow.
Triangle, triangle, triangle.
No, hourglass.
Yeah.
And then the hourglass, yeah. Time is precious, right? Well, once again, thank you for joining me for this training. Let me share my screen and show you what our agenda will look like. This is the agenda for today. Today we are learning how to unpack TEKS. So first step, unpacking the TEKS. The second one, steps to unpacking TEKS. We'll practice to show what we have learned. We're going to watch a video to show what the TEKS that we have chosen, what it looks like, what ways can you teach that TEKS as a teacher. And then we're going to practice and practice and practice, because the more you practice, the better you become in unpacking TEKS. So as we go through this training, I want to believe that everyone has copies, both hard copies and soft copies of all the materials that we are going to use through this training. Let me go through the power presentation. PowerPoint presentation. Okay, unpacking the TEKS. Today, the training goal is going to be our learning objective. We will explore the process of unpacking the TEKS. Our product, which is going to be our goal, the goal for everyone in this training, is that by the end of this training, you should be able to say, I can use steps discussed to unpack each grade level TEKS. What is TEKS? TEKS stand for Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. These are the state of Texas standards of what students should know and be able to do in each subject and grade level. It was adopted by the State Board of Education, the SBOE, in November 2006. It was first used in the classroom in the 2007-2008 school year. The standards for each subject are developed from foundational knowledge strengths. These, it depends on the subject that we're talking about. So the strengths and the standard are developed from the foundational knowledge or for each subject, what students should know at each grade level and be able to do. TEKS are reviewed every 8 years, and each subject has both English and Spanish versions. TEKS for all subjects can be found on Texas Education Agency under the academic tabs. If you click on this link, it should take you to the website. Why do we need to unpack the TEKS? First, unpacking the TEKS gives clarity on what we want students to know and be able to do. Because we first need to understand what we want our students to know and be able to do. This is it is best done collaboratively with other grade level teachers. Unpacking TEKS helps teachers to choose essential standards that are guaranteed to all students to be successful in their current grade and the next grade, because that is very important. If they lack in one TEK in the previous grade, it is going to be difficult for them to continue in the next grade. They need that foundational knowledge from this previous grade to be able to continue in their next grade. It helps teams to create a common formative assessment. When you teach a TEKS, your assessment should be in alignment with the TEKS that you taught. And when standard and assessment are aligned, it is easier to know which standard student struggles with. This can help teachers to reteach or extend learning. You reteach for the students that are struggling, and you can extend learning for your tier 1 students. Unpacking the TEKS keeps the focus on all student learning at high level. You're able to track what the students are learning. Unpacking leads to confidence and no chaos for both teachers and students. When you know in depth of what you're about to teach your student, you're able to have that confidence to teach your student. And that increases the knowledge that students are going to learn from you, because you're able to break down the TEKS prior to coming to the classroom. Steps to unpack TEKS. We're going to go through these steps one at a time. Read the standard as a team. It's important to have team knowledge. Even though you might be teaching the same subject, it's important for you to be able to understand how your teammate sits and understand the TEKS that you are trying to unpack. So this is like brainstorming on a particular TEKS that you're going to teach your students. Identify the verb in the standard. Identify the concept of the standard. Identify the context of the standard. And from your standard, you're going to develop student expectation or expectations depending on the content of the TEKS for that standard. And you're going to check how this standard is assessed in the current grade and also in the next grade. You want to be sure that the student, they understand what you have taught them. They're able to answer questions on that TEKS that you have taught them. So that is why it is important for you to access how these TEKS are examined, especially during the STOR period. Steps to unpack TEKS. Does anyone have questions so far? Okay. Steps to unpack TEKS. Step one, like we said, we're going to read the standard as a team. So I want us to turn to our TEKS Leap Forward snapshot. This company, they have helped teachers to compact the TEKS as they see it in the TEA website. They put them and they color coded the TEKS for each grade level and for each subject. So we all have it at hand. Okay.
Yes.
I see yours.
I have mine.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so let's take this standard 3.2a as an example. Check this trend for this standard and the color. Let's take this as an example. So first of all, let's read the standard and I will go and share my screens to let you see what I meant by the trend and the standard of these TEKS that we are choosing. So 3.2a says compose and decompose numbers up to 100,000 as a sum of so many 10,000 and so many thousands and so many hundreds and so many tens and so many ones using objects, pictorial models, and numbers, including expanded notation as appropriate. So let me share my screen and I will show you the snapshot that I am talking about. This is the second grade snapshot. So the website is lead forward. Let me use the second grade. Okay, so as we're using 3.2a, it says compose and decompose numbers up to 100,000 as the sum of so many 10,000s, so many thousands, so many hundreds, so many tens, and so many ones using objects, pictorial models, and numbers, including expanded notation as appropriate. Thus, on the screen is the lead forward snapshot for second grade math. You see that this the snapshot is color coded. You have the process standards, you have the readiness standard, and then you have supporting standard. The process standards are the skills that the student need to know and learn as you are teaching all of these standards. They are skills. If you look under 2.1, it says apply mathematics to problems arising in everyday life, society, and workplace. So each time you teach TEKS, you are going to apply that TEKS into real life situation for the students so that they can relate with what you're teaching them. They'll use them as a problem solving model, and you're going to use tools, manipulatives. It helps them to remember what they have learned in the classroom. The readiness standard, these are the standards that the student need to know and be able to do in their current grade. The supporting standard, which is yellow, that is the one that they need to know, and it will prepare them for the next grade that they will be in. If you look at 2.2a, the 2.2a, here, that means the student, when they were in second grade, they also used concrete and pictorial model to compose and decompose numbers up to 1,200 in more than one way as a sum of so many thousands, hundred, tens, and one. So in a way, you see, they have a prior knowledge to what you're talking about when you're using the composing and composing, but they only did it up to 1,200. So they're going to be taking it further in third grade. So getting back to our PowerPoint presentation. So the second step after reading this, the standard as a team, and you've seen what is expected from the standard. The next step is to identify the verb in the standard. In the standard, the verb are clear cut. You can see them. And this one says compose and decompose numbers up to 100,000 as a sum of many 10,000 and so forth. So the verb that we have in this standard is compose and decompose. So students should be able to compose numbers. You need to let them understand what it means to compose number. That should be part of your vocabulary words that you're going to display in the classroom with examples as you teach this TEK. So to compose, to bring together. To decompose, to break apart. So that I want each of us to take your third grade lead forward snapshot, pick a TEK, and I want you to identify the verb in any of the TEKs that you're going to take. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, thank you.
I'll do 3.3H, and it says compare two fractions having the same numerator or denominator and problems by reasoning about their sizes and justifying their conclusions using symbols, words, objects, and pictorial models. So the verbs would be compare.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes, the verb there is going to be compare. Thank you. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So I'm going to choose 3.2. Are we still doing readiness, or we can choose under supporting standards?
Anyone.
Okay, anyone. Okay. I'm going to choose 3.2B. It says, describe your mathematical relationships found in the base 10 place value system through the 100,000 place. So I think the verb there is describe.
Yes. So that is the verb. That's how to find the verb in your TEKS. Mr. Tim.
Okay. I was looking at 3.5b of the under multiplication, and this one says represent and solve one and two-step multiplication and division problems within 100 using arrays, strip diagrams, and equations. So this one has two verbs that would be represent and solve.
Represent answer. So once you are able to know how to find the verbs or verb in your standard or TEKS that you want to teach, you begin to think of how you're going to help the student to understand what the verb means. The next slide. The third step is identify the concept of the standard. We've seen the verb. Now we're going to look at the concept. So as we read in 3.28, which is a third grade number and operation strand, it says the concept A of the standard follows the verbs. The concept, what you're going to be doing with the verb, you will see it immediately after the verb. So in this case, composing and decomposing is going to be on what? What are we composing and decomposing? So we're going to be decomposing and composing numbers, not alphabets, not any other thing, but numbers. Numbers up to what? Up to where? So it's clearly stated in the TEKS that you're going to compose and decompose numbers up to 100,000. And it shows you how you're going to compose them. You're going to compose them that how many 10,000s can I find in 100,000? How many thousands can I find in it? How many hundreds? How many tens? How many ones can I find in 100,000? When students understand this concept, they're able to know, they're able to quantify the number and the extent of the number that you're teaching them. The concept of what you are teaching is very important because it's the concept that's going to help them to answer questions. Once they're able to grasp the concept of what you're teaching, answering questions on the TEKS is not going to be difficult for them. So helping them to understand the concept, it is very, very important. So from the TEKS that you have chosen earlier, can you go back again and tell us what the concepts in your TEKS is?
I'll start.
Okay.
So once again, I was using 3.5b, which says represent and solve one and two-step multiplication and division problems within 100 using arrays, strip diagrams, and equations. So from your explanation of the concept, I believe mine would be, or the context would be one and two-step multiplication and division problems within 100.
Yes. So you're going to help them to understand how to solve one-step and two-step multiplication and division problems within 100. That means the product of your multiplication and your division shouldn't go beyond 100. So that means you're looking at multiples from 1 to 10 times 10. or division within 100?
So for mine, I chose 3.3H, I believe. Compare
Yes.
was the verb. Two fractions having the same numerator or denominator in problems by reasoning about their sizes and justifying the conclusion using symbols, words, objects, and pictorial models. So the concept would be two fractions having the same numerator or denominator.
Yes.
And then the context would be by reasoning about their sizes and justifying the conclusions using symbols, words, and objects,
Yeah.
and
Thank
pictorial
you.
models.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Fry. So that means you're going to compare two fractions having the same numerator first, like compare 1/3 and 2/3. Same denominator, or you can compare 1/4 and 1/3. That is same numerator. Thank you.
So mine, I chose 3.2b, which says describe the mathematical relationships found in the base 10 place value system through the 100,000th place. So, of course, the verb there is describe, and then the concept is to know relationships. I believe that is multiplying by 10, essentially, up to that would be up to 100,000. So for example, if you start with 10, the next one is going to be 100, next one is going to be 8,000, next one is going to be 10,000, and then up to 100,000, which links up to, I believe, 3.28. So that's the concept. Can they multiply in, they don't know the relationship of in base 10 with among these numbers, starting with 10, then 100, then 1,000,
Up
up
to,
to
yes,
100,000.
100,000, please. So that is the goal in third grade math, for them to be able to do as much as possible with their numbers up till 100,000. Because when they get to fourth grade, they're taking it to a million. So imagine a student that cannot do anything with a number from up to 100,000. How do you expect that student to be able to work with 1 million?
So essentially, in math, they need to know that 10, that is 110, and then 100 is two tens times 10. 1,000 is 10 times 10 times 10, that is 3. So they need to know the relationship.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so step 4, identify the context. The context of the standard. Context indicates the extent of the learning. How far do you want to go? And what are you using what model are you using to help the student to understand what you're teaching? Within what context? So as you see on the PowerPoint presentation, the context is coded green. So from our text, it says we're going to be using objects, pictorial models, and numbers, including expanded notation as appropriate. So you are going to need manipulatives to help the student understand. That's one of your process standard, to understand what you're teaching them. So I want us to move to the next. So let's see. So once we understand our standard, what is expected from us, the verb, the concept, the context, then we're going to look at how is this standard assessed? What are the expectations? What do they want the student to be able to know and be able to answer under that strength. Once again, the TEK resource system is able to do that for us. Let me see if I can go through this link. This is one way you can find all the questions that has been answered on this TEK. So you can go to search assessment. You click on your grade level for the,
Can you share your screen?
oh, am I not sharing my screen?
Or you're still on the PowerPoint?
You should see on the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay, sorry. Let me use this one to share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes, you can see it.
So it's called TEKS resource system. Okay, so if you go to assessment center, okay, and you put in all, these are the ones that I have done in the past. And these are the TEKS that I've seen how they were assessed. The released questions on star on them. Let's see if I have 3.28. That's better. That is really. Okay, here we go. So here are the ones that I have used in the past. See, these are how the questions are. These are how the students are assessed during STAR. And they must be able to answer questions like this. You see the model that's being shown them, the tens and the ones. Those are some of the manipulatives that you will be using in the classroom for them.
So can you say that manipulative is a pictorial?
Well, pictorial is the picture, like drawing for them. Manipulative is something that they can handle. So we have the blocks in the classroom. We have the 10 base blocks and the ones and the hundreds in the classroom. So that is one website that you can use very often to look at how your TEKS has been assessed in the past. So let me stop sharing my screen and go back to another one is the lead forward. Can you see my screen?
Yes, but it's the PowerPoint.
It's still the PowerPoint. Okay. Okay, so another website that can help you is the Leap Forward. In the Leap Forward, you go to IQ, Released Item Analysis. If you click there, you go to Content area, select your content. It's math, select your grade. Third grade, you also have this one in both English and Spanish. See, so you can click on either of all those three, but this time we're going to, since we are dealing with standard, so we're going to click on the student expectation. Click on the student expectation, click next, and see all the student expectation, the standard for third grade math. And this is what we are using today. So click on 3.2a. See all the years. You can select on all of the years that this TEKS has been assessed. So these are the release tests for these TEKS, and you can use them in the classroom. And this one go beyond TEK research because this one will tell you the answer. It will tell you some of the options that the student picked during this test and major conception or misconceptions that students have when they are answering this question. For example, if you look at this first question, it's talking about the expanded form of this number. And from here, you can see that the correct answer is H. But you can see how many people got it wrong. So you have 90 people getting it right. You have people choosing F, and you have some choosing, 2 people chose G, and 1 person chose J. From here, you can see student misconceptions when they are doing this test. And while you're teaching them in the classroom, you are able to help them to overcome those misconceptions. I will stop sharing my screen and go back to the PowerPoint presentation. So once you are able to understand and unpack your TEKS, you're going to develop student expectations. Usually there is something we all know the year at large, at glance, the year at glance, we call it YAG. So it tells you how many days you're supposed to teach these TEKS with your student. Sometimes we have 10 days to teach these TEKS. So each day that you're going to teach these TEKS, you're going to help your student to learn one goal at a time. For these TEKS that I've chosen, this is the common expectation, student expectation. The first one, remember our verb says we should compose and decompose. So your goal for the first day that you're going to teach your student is to be able to let them understand that they can compose numbers up to 100,000 as a sum of so many 10,000, so many thousand, so many hundred, so many tens, and so many ones. This can be a day goal in your math class. And you can teach this goal because after you've taught the goal, you assess them, assess their knowledge of understanding. If they don't understand it, you might want to teach this goal again the next day. So you keep teaching until they understand the concept behind composing numbers up to 100,000. And then you can pick on the next goal. Use object, pictorial models, and numbers to compose those numbers. So after doing that, the aspect of composing, then you can start teaching how to decompose these numbers. And then you can teach how to express these numbers in expanded form. And then how to express this number in expanded notation. So let's see, one way that can help you as a team is to go to YouTube. You have other teachers that are teaching the same grade level. You can see how they have taught these TEKS in their classroom. That will give you a clue of how you want to teach this TEK in your classroom. Let me copy this because I know it may not show. I'll copy it and share the screen with you. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is how one teacher taught these TEKS in his classroom.
Notation as appropriate. Now I'm going to break that down into three different parts. So
Now I can hear it, yeah.
The first part
Okay.
represent Johnson Learning Systems, and today we're going to be talking about place value, which is the first objective within our third grade math book, Math Fluency and Problem Solving. Now in the state of Texas, place value is represented by a standard titled 3.2a. It's a pretty long standard. Compose and decompose numbers up to 100,000 as a sum of so many 10,000s, so many thousands, so many hundreds, so many tens, and so many ones using objects, pictorial models, and numbers, including expanded notation as appropriate. Now, I'm going to break that down into three different parts so we can understand it. The first part is to compose and decompose numbers. Now, the word compose means to put something together. And what we're going to be putting together are base 10 blocks. Base 10 blocks begin with units. This is 1 unit, and this is 1 unit. And we know that 1 unit plus 1 unit equals 2 units. I just composed a number. Now I'm going to decompose this back into 1 plus 1. That's the first part of this standard. Now let's move on to the second part. Compose and decompose numbers up to 100,000 as a sum of so many 10,000s, so many thousands, so many hundreds, so many tens, and so many ones. What does that mean? It's talking about place value. On the next slide, I'm going to show you a place value chart. Now, within this place value chart, I have already added some value to this place value chart. Now, in the ones place, we have 3 ones. That is the so many ones it was talking about. In the tens place, we have 4 tens. Each one of these units represents 10 units, and we have 4 tens, and 4 tens is going to be 40. We also have 2 hundreds. Each one of these 100 flats represents 100 units, and 100 plus 100 is 200, and we have 2 units. In the thousands place, we have 1,000, which is represented by 1,000 cubes. This is 1,000 units. And moving on lastly to the 10,000s place, we're going to have 5 unit cubes to represent 5 10,000s. Now I'm going to introduce you to expanded form. You've seen expanded form before in second grade and first grade, but expanded form means to add the values. You add the values to come up with a standard number, which is the number that I have created is 51,243 when you add up all the values using the expanded form. Now, another way to decompose this number is with expanded notation, which is also mentioned in the objective. Now, expanded notation is dealing with multiplication. Expanded form, adding. Expanded notation, multiplying. Let's make sure we know the difference between both of those. Now we're going to decompose this number, and you should be decomposing it again with multiplication. And with expanded notation, you have to multiply the values and then add the values to come up with a standard form. And again, standard form only means a regular whole number, a regular normal number. Now on the next slide, I'm going to break down the rest of this standard. Now, the last part of the standard, it says using objects, pictorial models, and numbers, including expanded notation as appropriate. Now, we've already seen the objects that we're using, which is place value blocks. Now, the next part is pictorial models. A pictorial model, the base word of pictorial is picture. So it is a problem dealing with a picture of the base 10 blocks. And lastly, we've been dealing with the numbers in helping us to come up with place value. We're going to end up moving on, and I'm going to show you some examples on the next slide of what these problems look like in action. The first problem that you're looking at is an expanded form problem. You see expanded form in the problem, and expanded form means adding. Do you see adding within the answers? It lets you know we're dealing with expanded form. The second problem that we're going to deal with is expanded notation. Now, within this problem, you see the words expanded notation, and you also see multiplication. As we just discussed, expanded notation represents multiplication. Expanded form represents what?
Addition.
And lastly, this is a pictorial model, and we're taking these base 10 blocks and turning them into a picture. Remember, the base word of pictorial is picture. Thank you for your time, and if you have any more questions, or if you're not understanding all the way, just go ahead and rewind this video and watch it again. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so that is one way one teacher teaches these TEKS. And of course, the students are going to have their math textbook, which is going to explain to you better how you can teach these TEKS. Do we have any questions so far?
Yeah, for his last example, the answer wasn't on there. He should have had 223, I think, and he had 2,000.
Oh, are you sure?
The blocks, each box represents 1,000.
Oh, oh,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay. The cube represents 1,000.
Yes.
And then the single. Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry. I apologize.
That particular one was.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. I see it now. Thank you.
Okay. So that is how to unpack TEKS. And when you do this for your students, it is going to help them to understand the concept better.
I have a comment.
Okay.
So that video wasn't really for the students, it was for the teachers.
It's for both of them.
Both of them, okay, both.
Yes.
Okay.
The number one, you see the video, the guy taught how to unpack the TEKS.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the teachers can relate to that.
Okay.
It also showed them what questions can be asked from those TEKS. Yeah, from the TEKS. So it's for both teachers and students.
Okay, so sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, so from that video, it's essentially explaining to the teacher, giving them a breakdown of what the learning outcomes of that particular module is.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Is it like that?
Yeah, it's for
the
the
student learn.
teachers. The teachers can learn, and at the same time, the teacher can use it for the student in the classroom.
Okay.
Because the questions that are asked at the end of the video, the student can learn from them. And
Okay.
also, you see the manipulatives that he used as an example is also good for the student to know and understand what those blocks stand for.
I think,
Okay. So examples. Okay.
yeah, for me, I think that it's something that you can use at the beginning because it's more generalized, and then before you go into the nitty-gritty to the students, because you cannot go that fast when you are dealing with
Oh,
students.
yes,
But
it's,
you
yeah,
can
you
actually
can,
use that to generalize, at least for them to understand
yes,
the
yes,
big terms, and then you start breaking them down to
down
their
for them,
level.
yes. So conclusively, our conclusion, unpacking standards are easier when working in groups, as you guys can see, because we can interpret the standard in a different way. So when you collaborate with other teachers that are teaching the same subject with you, you are able to see what they understand from the TEKS, and you're able to brainstorm together as a group and then do your lesson plan for that TEKS. So it is important to make sure that the curriculum, the instruction, and the assessment are aligned. Sometimes you have to go back and forth. From the curriculum, you develop how you're going to do the instruction, how you're going then from the instruction, how you're going to assess the standard, and then the assessment also leads you back to the curriculum. So all of these must be aligned so as to get the best out of the learning process for the student. Do we have questions so far?
So how often are these? How often are they reevaluated to be able to get different perspectives and fresh ideas from
You
other
mean
people?
you mean the teachers?
Yes.
Yes, there is a time that we do a conference if we don't have parent meetings. So that is what we do.
Oh, so you look over the TEKS together to come up with
Yes,
new.
and do lesson planning.
Okay.
Oh,
So
is that weekly,
every day.
every day? Oh,
Yes, like you plan for the next week, this week.
well,
So,
and is, so
sorry.
is that also teachers who are teaching the same subject or
Yes, for
everybody?
teachers. No, for teachers who are teaching the same subject, like third grade teachers who are teaching math.
Okay.
That's what they'll be doing together.
Oh, across the ISD or school by school?
It depends, it varies, depends on the school. But yes, that's what we do. It depends on the
Because I'm thinking
principal,
that
the VP.
if you have only one teacher, for example, teaching a grade in a school, teaching a particular subject in a grade in a school, then that means that teacher has to hold conference with other teachers from other schools.
From other school, yes.
Okay.
That's a possibility. Okay, so having learned the steps to unpack the TEKS, I want you to come together as a team and pick one TEKS from the third grade math snapshot. You're going to decide which TEKS is going to be. So we're going to start unpacking, go through all the steps, and come up with a lesson plan for that TEKS. So I'm going to leave you to do it together, and I'm going to end the video. And before I do that, can we share something that you've learned? Each of us, I want us to share something that you've learned from this training today.
I'll start. I didn't know how, I didn't realize that there was this level of standardization behind the learning that goes on across, statewide. So like there's a statewide standard of learning that everybody across the state of Texas follows, this standard. While it is up to each school to determine how they deliver that information, but that standard is there. So I didn't know about that.
Even
Yes.
even the delivery information is inherently standardized because the students have to take the same exam. And so
Yes.
if you don't, it's inherent in that. That's another thing. That's one thing that I learned. That well, of course, there's individual flair. There's each teacher's personality can seep through, but still,
The standard is
inherently,
still the same.
yeah, the system is standardized because if you're well, from what you showed us, like the assessment that you showed us, I believe that's from the state. You can access that, right? From the
Yes, that's the
okay. So of course do they break it down like school by school or ISD by ISD?
no.
You don't, okay. Okay. But still I think there's that inherent standardization in the entire process, not just in the curriculum.
Yes, not just in the curriculum because the student they sit for the same exam.
The same exam. So yeah.
So I learned the difference between a 100 and 1,000. 100 is a 10 by 10 single layer. 1,000 is 10 by 10 by 10. And then I also learned the difference in, well, maybe I didn't learn it. The difference between the expanded notation and then the expanded notation is where you add, right? And then what's the other one? The one where you
Expanded form.
Expanded
Expanded form is when you add. Expanded
Okay.
notation is when you express them in as many tens, as many thousands, as many hundreds.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. The
For me,
expanded form is addition. The expanded notation is multiplication.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And I learned that now.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me for this training. I'm going to leave you to come together as a group, pick one TEKS, and unpack the TEKS and develop a lesson plan for it. So thank you for.
What's the last slide?
Oh, it's the references for my.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.